The last real change we made to our demo application was creating a new view a few videos ago. In that video, I briefly mentioned the ability to combine code and markup in your view by describing the code that Visual Studio generated for us. In this video, I'll show you how to really take advantage of the ability to combine code and markup in your views by using a syntax known as Razor. Introduced in ASP.NET MVC 3, Razor is a relatively new syntax. The driving force behind the creation of Razor was to create an elegant and powerful, yet simple way to combine code and markup in your views. In fact, most of the time, Razor boils down to 3 simple rules. First, just combine your code and markup. Don't think about it. Second, use the @ symbol to indicate that you want to start writing code. Third, use standard language keywords. Keywords such as if, else, and for each. Though these 3 simple rules will get you through most scenarios, Razor does have a few more, quote, keywords at your disposal beyond the @ symbol. To show these keywords in action, let's create a new view that uses all of them. We'll begin by creating a controller action to display the new view. Let's call it auction. This new action will do one thing: return a view. Next, we'll have Visual Studio create the new view for us by right-clicking on the new action and clicking Add View. Just as I showed before, we'll go ahead and accept all of the defaults that the wizard provides and click Add to add our view. Then we'll delete the contents of the view to start with a clean slate. First, I'm going to paste in a code block that I've created beforehand. This is a code block. You can tell it's a code block because it begins with the @ symbol followed by an open bracket. Then a bunch of lines of code followed by a closing bracket to close the code block. In this code block, I'm using standard C# syntax to create a new instance of our auction model and assigning some values to its properties. Next, I'll add standard HTML markup, an opening div tag followed by an h3 tag. Then I'll use a Razor code snippet to render the value of the auction's title property into this tag. Then I'll close the h3 tag. Pay close attention to this line. It's the epitome of Razor in action. Notice how I start the line by writing standard HTML markup. Then I use the @ symbol to switch to code mode, telling Razor that I'd like the output of this code to be rendered at this particular place in the markup. Here's the cool part. When I'm done writing my code, I just start writing standard HTML again. In this case, I'm just entering the closing h3 tag. Moving right along, I'll do the same thing again, this time calling the toString method on some of the other properties of the auction and passing in standard date, time, and currency formatting strings to affect how the values are displayed. Then, just for good measure, I'll throw in a comment block. Notice how I open the comment block with the @ characters and close it again later with the *@ characters. Now it's time to get a little crazy and throw in a C# code snippet that spans multiple lines. Notice how I start the code block with a simple @ symbol followed by an if statement, followed by an opening bracket on line 28. Razor is smart enough to know that when it sees an opening bracket, it should also know to look for a matching closing bracket, such as the one on line 30. Razor is also smart enough to realize that because there is an else statement directly following that closing bracket, we're not done yet. This is all part of one big if-else statement. So it sees the next opening bracket and looks for yet another closing bracket. And since that closing bracket doesn't have any code following it, Razor knows my code snippet is finally complete and renders the resulting value. Notice how I'm using the @ characters at the beginning of line 29? I have to do this because without it, Razor would not be able to determine whether or not the line is code or content, because the line does not start with something that is obviously either one. In other words, the content on this line may not be valid code, but it's not obvious markup either. Using the @ characters gets around that ambiguity. Likewise, I could achieve the same outcome by using the Razor text block. Though it looks like a regular HTML tag, it is in fact a Razor keyword that indicates multiple lines of content. In other words, this is the same as this. Finally, I close the page by rendering another conditional chunk of markup to display an image of the auction item if the image URL has been specified. Then I render the auction's description in its own div tag. After this, we can run the page and see the details of our auction rendered. While this video shows the Razor syntax in action, it kind of ignores the principles of ASP.NET MVC by creating a model, the auction variable, in the view. In the next video, I'll show the proper way to handle this scenario by creating the model in the controller and passing it to the view instead.